Hi and welcome back. My name is Stefan Erdmann. Today I'm going to be breaking down my favorite scene from episode number 8 of My Mister as part of my series about my favorite scenes from My Mister. And I'm going to come at it from a perspective of director sometime, actor many times, scriptwriter sometimes. And so there are a lot of elements there that I love to pick up on. And so I hope you enjoy this video series as much as I do. Join me for the rest of the series. Of course, it gets harder and harder the further we go in the drama because it just gets better and better. In this video, I'm going to be focusing on a scene later. However, I'm going to show you the end of the long conversation that they have on the way home from that dinner or drink that they're having there in episode 7 and beginning of 8. The end of that conversation, even though that conversation is gold, really, he talks about the inner forces, the external forces. He describes how his job has helped him understand his life a little bit, and she picks up on that. But I want to come in at the end of that conversation because there's a moment there that blew me away when I first heard it, and every time it just comes up. And it leads very beautifully into the main scene I want to show you today. But let's have a look at the end of this conversation. It starts off when she says, "I hate winter." And I'm like, yeah, I'm with you on that one. Let's have a look. And this is just their comfort zone, isn't it? It's this sort of like, I have somebody I can just totally be honest with. I can say all kinds of stuff, like ridiculous stuff, like I hate all the seasons. And like I can just really share how I actually feel about stuff. And he will just understand and gently lift me up without being patronizing or whatever. Now they come on to the whole conversation about how old she is, which is great. I love how they did that they managed to, that they scripted in such a way that she would get the numbers wrong, which is just sort of like his face when she does that. It's just, it just adds to, I think she just couldn't be bothered to, obviously she can count it, but she just couldn't be bothered to come up with the right number in a way because she's so tired. This feels like a moving therapy session, really. She is habitually being depressed. It's almost like it's become a habit over the years, and she's just breaking out of it a little bit, and we'll see in a minute how. And so they end on this sort of like, this sort of style. And that's why also the sound and stuff, you hear the music and you hear the noises of the background noises, and then this happens.
Paiting.
And you had absolute silence there for a second. And yeah, I just love how they did that. It's a bit like all of a sudden out of the dark comes this sort of like ping sound of her saying fighting or piting, which, you know, is obviously a term in Korea that people use a lot to kind of say, hey, you know, I don't know exactly what it means exactly. Cheer up, or let's go, or let's make it happen. It seems to have a lot of meanings, but please let me know. But I just love how the audio of that as well, how she mumbled along and they were mumbling and they were going through the motions, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the music ends and there's this moment of complete silence, and then all of a sudden her voice, bright, like a general happy person that wants to cheer somebody up. And especially after she's been moaning so much, she knows that she needs to cheer him up at that point. So it's the first time she kind of just goes, you can do it. Because she maybe realizes that he's more depressed than her even, or that he's obviously in this situation that she led him to in a way that, with his wife and all that. That's on her mind, and she just wants him to be better. And so, hugely significant moment for me, because I just, that always gets me. Even now, I'm quite emotional. Don't know why. It's like she's putting her heart on the line for a second and just says, hey, I care about you. And they're having this moment. It's a bit like saying, I like you, in a weird kind of way, subtext-wise. And he goes away thinking, oh, so she's not just talking about herself, mumbling away, whatever. She just put some effort into making me feel better. Which is kind of new a little bit for her, because she's sort of been mostly, moaning and at times in a way, but she hasn't sort of been overtly been supporting him, or like saying, hey, you can do it, or stuff like that. It's like, it's a new thing in their relationship. Anyway, why I'm showing you this is because I want to show you another scene later, which I love, which kind of blew me away at first. Because even though this episode has some amazing scenes with Yura and Gi Hoon in it, in the pub later, I love that scene. It was very hard to pick this one, but from a directorial point of view, I love the upcoming scene the most in this episode. So let's have a look at it. And if I wanted to subvert the name of a popular novel, I would probably call this whole 4-minute stretch in the drama, this kind of collage, I'd probably call it The Unbearable Heaviness of Being, after the novel The Unbearable Lightness of Being by Milan Kundera. So let's have a look at it. And it starts off with Dong Hoon here in the pub talking to Jong Ui, and he's reflecting on what Lee Ji-an told him about her age. And of course she's listening in, and she is noticing that he's talking about her, of course. But it goes on. It's interesting where this scene turns in a minute. But I love how it starts off just like another conversation that we'll be listening to. And, it seems like it's just about the relationship, but actually then it turns into something else. And in a way, he's sort of just philosophizing, and I don't know, to me it doesn't make a lot of sense what he's saying. But because he's drunk and they're having this drunk pub end of day conversation, it kind of makes sense, but she's listening to it very intently. And I think as well it's interesting here that he wants her to metaphorically find a way home, you know, to feel good again and to feel like, you know, she doesn't have to drudge on forever and ever. Now, I don't believe in reincarnation, so I'm half relating, but I love how this scene turns. And this is just how it turns. And Jung-wi is also drunk, and given her character, she will be playful about it. And she's quoting from a song which is about to come on. And so the scene takes a completely different turn from what you would have expected. Like, because he's having a serious conversation in a way, and then she just turns it and kind of makes it about her own drama in a way. And I love this bit when he walks past, she's quoting from the song 1 Million Roses, I believe, and he walks past like some super old man, typical Drive fashion, as always. It's very funny. And it becomes light, and now the song comes in. And the song just fits Jung-wi perfectly. It's a bit like her theme song, isn't it, in a way, the way it turns into the drama. But what I love about this now, the next shots, it's like the perfect representation of that beautiful moment when you're out with your friends, you're very drunk, or you're quite drunk, and it's just that comfort of having friends around and feeling sort of tired, slightly drunk, and yet melancholic. And then we'll go into the way home, and yeah, it's just that vibe you're getting, this melancholic yet secretly comforted vibe. Then this song just brings it out. It's like this moment of them outside, jumping around a little bit and just closing up and going home. It always feels like if they didn't have each other to, you know, cheer each other up, to have some fun together and drink some, I don't know, if they would all be completely depressed, not knowing what to do with their lives. It feels a bit like that. And it just is a lovely reminder of the importance of having friends and community and having some people that you can hang out with, literally. And of course, Jung-wi, she's been playing this dream game of going home to her place when she obviously goes back to her pub and sleeps upstairs in her tiny room. And it's a bit like her pretend life that she's been creating. And I think they all know that she's kind of just pretending because that's what she's like. But they all go back to their individual struggles right now. That's what's really so melancholic about this scene. Sang-hoon always with the best jokes. I love how all their characters come out in these little moments and how they've been created throughout the drama, of course. It feels terrible that I haven't been talking much more about these other characters because they're all so well-rounded and they could all have their own series. Maybe they should do some spin-offs. And it's also just now on her face, you can see the smile that she had to say goodbye, and then it goes down and the emptiness sets in, you know. And she goes back on her way to her empty room, being lonely. And here, you know, what I love as well is that, you know, it's just how it just got taken away from that. For a moment now, it feels like it's not about the relationship with him and Lee Ji-an anymore, even though that's what set off this moment in the drama. And yet, it's a bit like everybody's going home to their various challenges or hell or whatever you want to call it. And we're having this snapshot of the main characters' challenges that they're dealing with when they're demons almost, you know, when they're alone, when they've left the place and they're going home. And now he's going home, and now love how they cut this in and how they show the contrast. And now we're literally like, let's have a look at what everyone is getting on with right now in their own little life. And Lee Ji-an, of course, here the contrast is strong. She doesn't have any friends. She's lifting her grandmother around, cleaning her up, getting her to lie down, and, you know, caring for her. And you know, it's hard work because that's all she's doing. And the contrast with the music especially, it's so stark. Because right now, you know, you have that same music that binds everything together, but, you know, her reality is like being in this dingy, cold place without heating, caring for somebody that she shouldn't be caring for by herself at her age, with her size body, and, you know, having an incredibly hard life. And then this as well, that he is standing outside of her door, which is so interesting because as an audience, we're slowly seeing that a turn in his character. We're seeing a depth to his character that we haven't really perceived yet. Because in the last episode, as you remember, he sort of looked a bit like a jilted lover almost, you know, like it comes through, you understand that he likes her actually, or that there's something going on there, apart from that, beating her up and trying to make her life hell. Why is he doing that? Partly it seems almost like because he wants her to be around. And it feels a bit like he's waiting for her to somehow apologize, and then he thinks maybe he can get over the whole thing with his dad. He is a bit like waiting outside a house, maybe because he wants to find out what's going on with Dong Hoon, but he also doesn't break down the door anymore because of, you know, the contract that he signed, or because he's becoming slightly doubtful of his own behavior, which, yeah, it's interesting. Again, with the music, the contrast. He's like, shall I go in? Shall I knock? Like everyone's personal hell sort of is on display now, all linked together by this beautiful song, which kind of is really surprising in a way that the way it comes out, because this is obviously a famous song in Korea, I believe, but the singer, I think the singer's Ko Woo-rim. He has a more an operatic tone or chansonnier tone to it, and so it's a really beautiful baritone, or I think it's more baritone voice, and so it creates this really beautiful sound that almost reminds you a little bit of Dong Hoon's voice in a way. If Dong Hoon sang a song like this, if he was a good singer, then he would sing the song maybe with that voice. I hadn't actually thought about that before, but I think it's possible that that's why they chose that song. It's also very melancholic and beautiful. And Jonghui, this scene obviously is partly about her, her make-believe life of going home somewhere, which she keeps repeating actually, because she just wants to be in a normal place ideally with a monk. It reminds me of lockdown, to be honest. I think a lot of people feel like she's kind of locked down in this pub, a bit like many of us over the last year. And sometimes it feels like you're going out, you walk around the block and you come back and you make believe that you just went somewhere. It makes a lot of sense. So it reminded me a lot of lockdown. And it's all about the contrast here, isn't it? You've got that beautiful song, you've got that romantic, melancholy voice, and you got this, basically, back to your box room. And it feels a lot like failure, it feels a lot like, why am I living this life? Why didn't anything work out? Why, it's one of those times. And it's all based on the lyrics of this song, And that's really her problem overall. Although I'm not sure that I think by nobody, she mostly means the guy that she's been obsessing about, that she somehow can't get over, who turned Dong Hoon's friend, who turned into a monk. Korea seems quite age-focused. Like a lot of things seem to be about age. So in dramas, you often see like people making a big meal out of, oh, I'm older than you, therefore you address me like this and that. But on the other hand, it also seems to be like, oh, this is an older woman, supposedly, and so therefore she can't get a guy anymore. And I'm always kind of interested whether that is a really strong theme in Korea, or whether it's just slightly blown up by dramas that, that need a problem to deal with. I'd love to hear what you think. He's half drunk singing the song as well. And so everybody's sort of like, and it ends up here where we see Dong Hoon still having the song in his mind and having his own little breakdown. Which brings it all full circle again with the earlier scene, which is why I always love the connections in this drama. Something happens, somebody says something, it comes back, it gets reflected on, and then it has an effect on the person. And while she's cleaning diapers, she still has time to worry about him and be alarmed that he sounds like he's about to cry or have a breakdown. And there she realizes that she's been helping him by basically trying to cheer him up. And yeah, just lovely to see that, like, she's starting to now feel like he's relying on her as much as she's been relying on him in some ways. And some of their dynamics have changed and shifted again. And it's such a beautiful moment that she hears this as well, through illegal means. And her face, when she looks down, it's a bit like there is so much going on there, because on the one hand, we know this is all make-believe, really, in her life, because at the same time, she knows that this will not last, yeah? And you can see that on her face. On the one hand, she's moved that he's thinking that she's been helping him. On the other hand, she feels sorry for him. On the other hand, she knows she has been up to no good, and this will never turn into something more. At the same time, she starts to feel very warm feelings towards him and really care about him. But it's super sad, because at the same time, she knows that this will all, this will all break apart. She will have to run away again. And she just needs to enjoy, for the time being, this illusion that they're having a great relationship and that she has somebody who really looks after her and who relies on her. Boom. And that's the end of the scene. It's just a beautiful collage, montage of scenes and moments where we also get a sense that all these characters are getting linked together sooner or later. They're getting connected, while at the same time we see the contrast between them, their current situation. Anyway, let me know what you think, whether you enjoyed this, whether you agree with me, and let me know what your favorite scene in episode 9 is, okay? And I'll see whether it's mine as well, and we'll get into the next video very, very soon.